Hey, what's happening, everybody? This is Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from the Hill Country. We're now streaming on YouTube, and this is a very special day, a very special event. There are close to 50 people here that are part of, I guess you would call it the 15 Minutes of Flame Friday FARcast Sunday Night Astro Live experience. And a lot of people here are chatters, and you'll know some of them. You're going to meet a lot of them. Not everybody will probably come up here, but I think enough people to give a sense of the variety and the eclectic nature of the folks that are here that they'll be able to demonstrate that. And of course, to my left, we have the lovely and talented Miss Emily Moyer.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having, I just want to, Robert, you're my first friend in the alternative media. And congratulations on all of this. I think a lot of us would like to do this.
Yeah.
But it's scary to think, well, what if nobody comes? And you stared that beast down and you filled this room with a lot of really nice people who I would love to spend a weekend with. So congratulations to you on that.
Thanks.
And I met you because of Friday FARcast, because of your genius.
Well,
in destructing
by destructive genius. You haven't seen anything yet.
Deconstructing Russell Brand. When I heard what you had to say about Russell Brand, I was like, this man is genius. I would like to know him. And that was how it all began.
That's how it all began. So Emily, Emily was, she was I think you were a client, right?
Yeah.
So Emily was a client, and I did a reading for you.
Yeah.
Wasn't that at Whole Foods?
No, well, that was after we knew each other.
Okay,
the first reading you did for me was in actually about this time 5 years ago, in 2014.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was a terrifying disaster, but I really liked you, and I think you liked me, and I couldn't believe anybody liked me at that time. And so, yeah, we had
you. Well, now I will say this: Emily was a very different person then, and I'm not saying that in a pejorative sense, but it's like her life now versus her life then is almost like night and day in a really positive sense. And it's been fascinating and inspiring to watch her grow, especially as a broadcaster. And I saw her in her she got together with Randy. A lot of you are connected through Randy and Emily and the off-planet stuff. And hello, Randy, and everybody else that's connected to Off-Planet World. And I remember seeing Emily, I think we did our first show together. It was such a funny story. I had kind of forgotten that we were supposed to do this show. And Randy tapes his stuff and then edits it. And it was a Saturday night, and I was riding my bike in East Austin. And I get a phone call. Hey, where are you? We got a show to do, right? I'm like, oh.
I think that was the second time we had you on.
Was the second time?
It's funny. You're remembering all the seconds.
Oh, okay.
But yes, that was funny. And so he was like on his bicycle talking to us on the show.
So I parked and I stopped at this brewery, and we did the show there. And I didn't have a webcam, so it was just audio. You guys rolled with it. And that was a really interesting show because I think that was on September 10th in 2016. So it was on the eve of the election. And God, we exchanged a lot of really interesting information that night. And we talked about Hillary dying. And the next day was a Sunday, and that was the September 11th commemoration. And that's when she completely collapsed.
Yep. And
then she came out of her daughter's apartment, Chelsea's apartment, looking like a completely different person. And by the way, remember that the big black guy that was around her all the time? Apparently he's dead. Yeah. Yeah. So he's either dead or he's extracted and out of the picture, but he's no longer available for interviews, even if he was. So that was a really interesting time. And that was the night where I think I blurted out when Trump becomes president. And it's like, and Randy said, do you think he's going to win? I said, well, I just said it, and I'm on the record now, so I may as well go with that. Because it was a very hard election to read in a lot of ways, but once you kind of distilled it down, it was like, okay, this guy's probably going to carry the day. So that was that night.
The other thing so that was the first hour. In the second hour, we talked about Stranger Things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That was the first time I think you and I developed this thing that we have together, where we weave in what we're observing with things that have happened in our own lives, and the way it all kind of connects in a way that now we do on Matrix Mash, but we sort of, sew the quilt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really happened for the first time that night, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. So Emily and I have a unique kind of synergy when we get together and just start to riff. And Emily, she's like a machine gun with her thoughts, and it's been interesting to try to catch those bullets. But I think we've done a pretty good job of, like, finding each other's rhythm and groove.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, for me personally, a turning point was when we had that show about the gymnasts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where Emily comes from. And it's an intersection of her gymnastic life and also her kind of interesting programmed life as well. And that was a very emotional show for you.
I think that was, to this day, the best thing I've ever done. My best, presentation of information, and the most, it was different. Different than my high energy, lots of ideas. I was able to really get sort of quiet and still and talk from a deep place. And yeah.
So, and I think that was a turning point for our being able to connect and exchange, because I was just very intent on listening to her at that point.
Yeah.
And because it's a very emotional experience. And anyway, so it's been great to bond and have you part of this experience. And
yeah.
we did a Friday FARcast one time with Freeman. That was interesting. Joe was there for that, actually.
The first time I was on your Friday FARcast, though, we talked about occult aspects of tennis.
Right.
That was the first time, and then the next time was the gymnastics, and then we did the thing with
right.
Freeman. So yeah.
And we've done some really good stuff with Randy too. Let's not leave Randy out of the mix.
Yeah.
We did a show one time when I was in Miami. No, it was Tampa. I was in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it from
the hotel lobby.
I did it from the lobby of the floor, not even the lobby of the hotel, just the floor that we were on.
People were coming and getting ice.
Yeah, and they're looking at me like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
But it's the only way I could make it work. But anyway, Randy, if you're listening,
hi Randy, we miss you.
We love you, we miss you, and maybe next time you can be part of this, and we can bring in more people and do this again.
Yeah. So I just want to say congratulations on all your success. I think you do amazing work, and thank you for being my friend and a big support system for me. And I know you've touched all the people here, and I'm just one of the crowd this time. So thank you very much.
You're one of the, so Emily will be presenting as well tomorrow, and we have speakers, some of which are going to meet today. You've met almost all of them before, including the Crimmies, who are going to show up. Is this your day or last Friday? I'm sorry, I put Chris to sleep. Chris is sleeping. She's watching another show. She's watching Owen Benjamin.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
All right. Give it up for Emily. Okay, so I want to dip into the talent pool here. Who's going to be first? Who wants to come up? Let's just see who's enthusiastic, wants to take the first leap. Who said that? Judy, come on up, Judy. Let me check in with the chat room, see what's going on in the chat room. Hi, everyone. There's Joe Mama. Hey, howdy. So happy to catch us live. Let's see. He's going to win again in 2020. What else? We have Tamara. Yeah, made it. Looking forward to seeing everyone in the group today. Okay, so you need to, what happened to your, oh, there you are. We're in delay. And let's see. Jenny says, wish I was there. Hi, Jenny.
It shows me taking off my oxygen.
Jennifer's on her way. She's part of our group. She's on our way. We'll see you soon, Jennifer. There's Shari. We got Shari in the house, and Isla. Uncle Glenn, wish I was there. Big hello, Jennifer, Ruben. So hey, we got the chat room showing up.
So you see me both ways.
Yeah. All right. So here's Judy. Miss Judy Anderson. Hi, Judy.
Howdy. Hi, Tamara.
So welcome to the Friday FARcast.
Thank you.
Now, Judy's been I think have you missed a show?
I started listening to Regina Meredith with Conscious Media Network a long time ago. I think that's when I first heard of you.
Okay.
So I was on the tail end of your blog talk.
Right.
And when you started changing over, I've listened to you ever since.
So this is the third phase. Started off on Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, and everybody said they wanted the video. So, you know, here we are on YouTube.
And I'm an astrologist wannabe. And Robert gently let me know that maybe I better look elsewhere for my So I'm gonna just let you guys be the pros, and Robert's a good pro.
Well, you know, we all have our gifts, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and some of them are kind of more on the surface. But so tell us a little bit about yourself and, you know, kind of your path and, you know, in life, 40,000 foot view, and just kind of how you got here. Like, where were you born and how did you grow up?
I was born in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Raised in Southwest Missouri.
Uh-huh.
My dad worked for Teledyne, Rocketdyne, all of those dynes, making, you know, rocket engines.
Interesting.
And then I moved to Texas in '79 to Dallas. My kids were young. And Nathan has thanked me many times for taking them to Texas.
Many times in Texas.
Yes, he loves both my kids. And they're still around the Dallas area.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to pay rent right now around the Metroplex. So I migrated back to Neosho,
Right.
where I can afford rent.
Yeah.
For now. And then I was a legal secretary for about 25 years in Dallas. Then I became a massage therapist. Then I went to help care for my dad. And then my health did a crash and burn. So that's my story.
That's your story. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are certainly glad you're here.
I used to be a musician before I lost my voice.
What did you sing?
Singing and playing the piano.
Well, Taurus, right? You're a
accompanying.
Taurus. You got the Taurus voice thing going on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you play piano as well.
Yes.
So we got a piano out there.
Yes, I've seen piano
You
someplace.
think you could tickle the ivories maybe a little
I
bit?
could tickle it, but I wouldn't guarantee the results right now.
Okay. All right. So any interesting stories about your dad being a rocket scientist? That's kind of unusual.
Oh, he wasn't. He was a lathe operator.
A lathe operator, but he was in the business, right?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
And growing up in that area, almost everybody I went to high school with, their dad worked at Rocketdyne, Teledyne. So that was the Neosho town.
Interesting.
You know.
And that's gone now, right?
The industry there is.
Yeah.
But Neosho is still a thriving little town.
Yeah.
There's a junior college there.
Right. And you drove all the way down from
I did.
Neosho.
I broke it up, spent the night at my daughter's.
Yeah. Well,
And Tamara, the one I said hello to, Tamara wanted to be here.
right.
She grew up in Minnesota. You said that happened in Minnesota. She's got a son in Minnesota. Right now she's in Montana. So she wanted to be here.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do this again.
I keep letting my voice drop. That's not good, I know, on air.
No, you're fine. We've got a high density mic there. We're picking you up. You're all good. So is there any message you want to share to the great wide world and the internet while you're here?
No.
No? That's great. That's great.
I know nothing.
We're glad you're here.
Thank
you
you
for making the
I'm
trip.
glad to be here.
Judy, give it up. You hug.
Seems like I really have something to say.
No, it's all good. It's all good. All right. Who wants to get in the hot seat next? All right, come on up, Mr. Maury. Here comes Maury. Why am I not surprised?
I don't know. I am surprised. Actually.
So this is Maury DeMer. Have a seat, Maury.
I will. Thank you.
And Maury shared with us today that he is a master at life. Master at life. So isn't that great? You've learned how to live life.
Well, I'm working it still.
Working it
but
still.
I think I've got somewhere down the road on that.
So Maury has figured out how to attach himself to a woman about 40 years younger than him.
She's 25.
25. Sorry. I was giving Dawn the benefit of the doubt there. Maury's managed to figure out how to attach himself to a woman 25 years his junior.
Correct.
And you guys travel and I'd say you're doing pretty well there, Maury.
I think so too. I'm enjoying the ride. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So I met Maury last year. Was it a year ago?
2 years.
2 years ago. And Dawn and her band of Merry Pranksters came to Fredericksburg. And that was the first time I met Maury. And we climbed Enchanted Rock, well, part of the way.
Yep.
And we're going to be going back out there again on Sunday. So Maury, tell us again, you've had a really interesting life. You told me your life story in great detail and did a really good job of doing it. And, but you have lived kind of this sort of really American life. You've worked for 7-Eleven, right? You were like an accountant for 7-Eleven for Southland, right? Or
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole procedure spanned 9 years, and I started as a night clerk and never been in a store in my life. And by
Right.
the time I was at about 2 years later, I was a damn supervisor
right,
of a group of stores. And then I ran afoul of the law eventually with my attitude and stuff.
Right.
I wanted to do what they wanted me to do.
right,
And then I started another career in another state, and I became, Jesus, I've done so many things I can't even begin to count them. I've had, like I mentioned earlier, I've had probably 15 or 20 different careers. I could have got stuck in any one of them, and for some kind of weird reason, I never did.
But and what's interesting is your careers all seem to kind of touch into a particular American story.
Yeah.
You know, with the convenience store, weren't you involved in like cardboard and manufacturing?
I was in a paper mill.
Paper mill, right?
Mhm.
See, I remember these things.
Yeah, you do actually. You're
Yeah.
pretty good.
So you've actually kind of been a part of manufacturing, distribution, and then point of sale, all very important parts of
yeah,
kind of the experience.
and occasionally I teach.
and,
And what the hell do I teach? I don't know, just how to get along with whatever presents.
yeah, and
You know-
I really love his comments in the chat room, by the way. Like Maury always blows me away with some of his insights. I'm like, this is great stuff. So I would second that. You do have the ability to articulate things in a way that makes sense to people. at
It's
least to
true,
me.
but I listen. That's the thing. I mostly listen. And I'm not I don't need to monopolize a room for an hour or half an hour or 20 minutes even. I can say what I need to say in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'm gone,
Yeah.
or in the background again. And let the stars, come forward and, basically show themselves. And it's always good because there's always something, no matter what is there, there's some good to be, if you can see it and then articulate it in a way that's understandable to the person that I'm aiming it at, or even a larger group. Keep it simple. Stupid is a good way to say things. But you got to talk to the audience. You got to talk to who's listening to you. You can't just be professor of, some expertise that you're only talking to yourself eventually.
Right.
If you want to communicate with people, you have to talk with them where they are. You got to know where that is.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Maury, one of Maury's other great, I wouldn't call it a gift or a trait, but it's something unique and I've never seen in anyone. He smokes more than any person I've ever met. and he's here. And and he actually made it 3/4 of the way up Enchanted Rock.
I went to the top after you left.
There you go. So there you go. Went to the top.
And it's worth the walk, even though it is a long one.
So for all you smokers out there, here's your poster boy right here.
Yeah.
Maury, don't give it up. Thank you, Maury.
You're welcome, Robert. Thank you so much. Good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Okay. See, it's not that hard, is it? All right. Anybody else want to come up? Raising hands, raising hands, raising hands, raising hands. You're going. All right. Here we go. I love it. I was about 2 seconds away from picking somebody. All right. Here we go. We have Cheeky Monkey. You know her as Cheeky Monkey in the chat room. Also Scoobs and Amy. So she's got three personalities at the least, very least. How you doing?
I'm good.
You're welcome. So I think we connected on Facebook, what about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. And that's where we started to have a conversation and exchange information. And I guess you started to kind of follow in with some of the stuff that we do here, right?
And I heard about you. I don't know if it was 10 years or a little bit less at Gaia.
It was less. It
and
was 2013. That's when I was there.
watching your 11th house.
Mhm.
And I used to literally write down, you would say the forecast for the quarter, sitting with my little notes going, okay, keep an eye on this.
Oh, with Regina and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
all the interviews with Regina, and then followed you through. You got more on Facebook, and just kind of following ever since.
Cool. So you came all the way from Southern California, and that's I lived there for a little while. It's from where my son was born, And you are in the midst of a transition, which I think is really interesting for people to go through kind of a major kind of reset with their life and their career kind of later in the game. And it's kind of inspiring. Do you want to just kind of touch on that a little bit?
Sure. I've been in IT for 22 years or so, and raised a daughter on my own, and kind of saw what was going on in the world, obviously, and then realized I need to maybe do something different. And obviously, work for a large corporation, people get laid off. We call it riffing, right? Reduction in force, and they're going to do what they're going to do regardless of what you decide. But it's our choice to where we're going to be, right? So I just felt it's not up to them where I'm going to land. It's up to me. And they really do take good care of us in some ways that we can take advantage of tools that they give us. I quit college when I was younger, decided to go back and went cybersecurity. So I'm going through that now, and it's going to take years, but who cares? What else am I doing?
Right. So
I ran out of excuses, basically.
well, I think this is a really good, kind of topic of conversation, because there are a lot of people who feel like they're underemployed or they don't enjoy what they do. And that's kind of one of the worst places I think we can be, like not liking where we live or not liking where we work. I think it's essential. So you've got some tools that are available to you through your company that allow you to make that switch and that transition. And I think that there's something in there for all of us that if we're not happy, we're not satisfied, there's always a way that we can kind of reformulate our lives. And I just kind of wanted to bring that to the surface. I think it's kind of worthy.
There's no excuse. And if you're unhappy, if I'm unhappy, I'm not willing to put up with that anymore. And there's options, there's choices. And the more you open yourself up, the cooler it gets for me. So even coming here, I knew I needed to be here. I didn't know a soul except for you. Just did whatever the chat. And I really didn't even connect with people yet. But my heart and soul said, you need to be there. So do whatever you have to do to get there. So I turned in the homework. When did I fly here? Yesterday? Turned in the homework, 6 a.m. Final. I'm out. I'm done. And then I flew and I'm here. I'm very excited.
Well, we're glad you're here. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Give me a hug.
Thank you.
We're good. Okay, anybody else want to mosey on up? Oh, we got Mary Sue. Oh, Laura's coming. Laura's like a bullet train coming up here. I'm up. Laura, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent.
So this is Laura, and do you want to tell people how you got here, why you got here? Contacts. Are you ready to do that?
Context. Yeah. So I got attracted to Off Planet Radio, which is Emily's the co-host of that, because of a patient I had who was talking to me about Cliff High. I'm like, Cliff High? That's a bullshit name. I'm gonna go look that up.
So what do you do when you say patient? What do you do?
So I'm a physical therapist. I have my own practice, or I had my own practice. I just recently closed it in Colorado and moved out to LA. So to see what I could collaborate with Emily.
With Emily?
So, yeah.
Like collaboration with a capital C.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you saw this, did you see the Cliff High guy?
I did. I looked at Cliff High and he came up on Off Planet Radio and I listened to him like, well, actually this guy sounds smart and he's not, sorry, millennials, but he's not a millennial, you know, with some fake name or whatever, you know. And
Cliff High.
He talked about 5 minutes of cryptocurrency and the rest of it was about time dilation and time and little bloop theory and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, this is interesting. So I just kept listening more and more. And eventually I reached out to Emily and she was kind enough to reach back. And so we just developed a friendship. And and then I got into listening to her with you on the Matrix Mash and also the gymnastics thing, because I was a gymnast as well.
Oh, interesting.
So it was kind of an interesting thing to listen to. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then so the rest is history. So it was kind of history.
Well, I did a session with you.
Right. Yeah.
And because I was feeling stuck in my life. So that's kind of why I came up after Amy, is because I've been in a huge life transition myself, and a big part, not because it was of you, but because I was going through it and you gave me confirmation of what I kind of already knew inside, is that I needed to change what I was doing, change direction. And like if you don't, based on things in your houses and charts and whatever,
Yeah, I
you're
think
gonna have a major health crisis. And I'm like, oh, I don't want that. So I better get on this. So
right. So
Yeah.
how's the health?
my health's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Things are looking pretty good for you, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little, it's different flowing without this regimented schedule that I had. You know, I haven't quite figured out how to organize things and put things together. And so
Right.
it feels a little uncomfortable. It feels a lot uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But to go back to being a robot in this regimented routine,
Yeah.
that worked really well, just as depleting me.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So
Right.
until I find out the new way of doing things, I'm
Yeah.
flowing.
I mean, I think it's really interesting in that you had somebody mention the name Cliff High,
Yeah.
and now you're here, right? Just think about that. Think about how life works on that level.
Yeah.
And God, it's magical, fascinating. So, anything else you want to share? Any insights or any philosophy or?
I
something
just say do your soul work. Really do your work.
Mhm.
If you are not happy with the way your life is going, you're the one that's in charge of your life. You get to choose what you do, and yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but you don't know what's on the other side. And if you don't push through, you'll never know.
Mhm.
So, you know, just go for it, lean in.
And Emily's been really, really instrumental, right, in helping you.
She has.
Yeah, get
she's
across some of those.
Iron sharpens iron. I'm
Yeah.
telling you what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting smooth.
Cool.
Taking off my rough edges.
That's great. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
coming. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I
All right.
appreciate it, Robert.
Give it up, Laura. Okay. We have any other victims? Here comes Mary Sue. Mary Sue. Mary Sue. All right. From the virtual to the real. Okay. So we have Mary Sue here. Say hi to everybody out there in
Hi, everybody.
virtual world. Have you ever been on like regular TV before?
Mm-mm,
Never been on TV before?
never.
Never been in the internet? Ever been in the internet like this before?
No, never.
How's it feel?
Different.
Different? Okay. So there are at least 100 people staring back at you right now.
Wow. Hi, everybody.
So where are you from?
I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and when I was about 15 and a half, we moved to Cleveland,
Mhm.
Ohio, Great Lakes towns. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's where you are now.
yes.
And you're here.
I'm
Yeah. So what chain of events? How did this happen? How did you wind up in the seat?
Is it destiny? Is it something? I don't know. You tell me, you're the astrologer. You look at my chart. I don't know.
So you came on board and you were a client, right? You got a reading with me,
Mhm.
and then
One thing kind of led to another. I'd been corresponding with a number of different people, James Bartley first, and then Evie Lorgan. I'd had some woo-woo experiences that nobody in my family related to. It was a difficult time, and I found Masaki Miyagawa, and then he posted some of your YouTube videos, and I was like just blown away by what I heard and saw. And then a few months later, I talked to you for a reading,
Mhm.
and then I also somehow I tuned into Off Planet Media. I think it was from James Bartley. Somebody mentioned it, and I tuned in, and I was floored by Emily. And then when I saw you two work together, I was like, no way, this is just too cool.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just am putting a lot together in my own life, and you were a catalyst, and it's just brought so many cool concepts and growth.
Yeah.
So
Can I a little moment of honesty here? So Mary Sue, I think at least 3 times would email me and say, I can't make it. I'm not going to go. And I just like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Let's go. Keep going. Keep going. And you had a little bit of resistance. It showed up when you purchased the plane ticket. That was an interesting story, right? For to go through Southwest, but you got here and you got past whatever it is you needed to kind of get through to be here. What does that feel like?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, to speak, because my finances are kind of difficult right now, and I didn't know if I should do this, and I'm doing it. Oh well.
Yeah.
And here I am.
And you've been here, what, almost 24 hours now. What do you think?
I'm so glad I'm here.
Good.
And it just is such a beautiful group of people, and I'm just so glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. We're glad you're here too. Thank you. Give me a hug. There we go. All right. All right. Who wants to jump up here next? Oh, come on up. It's Ani Brito. I think Ani is like kind of the Da Capo of the chat room, I think. Don't mess with the chat room. Ani will step in and throw the hammer down.
Hi, everyone.
Here she is. How's it going?
Good. It's going great. I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be here with everyone.
We're
With
happy to
you
have
in
you too.
3D.
We're here in 3D. That's right. Let me check the chat room. Let's see what because you're kind of a big personality in the chat room. Let's see what they have to say. Check if I can find the chat.
Maybe
Where
it's
is
all
it?
the crazy stuff I just blurt out randomly.
I know. We appreciate you for that.
I appreciate that I don't have to preface or throw disclaimers or explain myself too much. Everybody gets it.
Okay, here we go. Yay, Ani. Ani, Ani, Ani. Yay, Ani.
Aw.
Hi, Ani in 3D. Hi, Ani. Everybody knows Ani.
Thank you, guys. That's very
That's great.
sweet.
Cool. Good. Oh, look at that. And Scoobs is actually in the chat room. Nice. There you go.
What a multitasker.
Wow. No wonder they're offering you that surveillance gig. So
So
how's it feel to be here?
it feels amazing. I'm honored to be here, and I don't know, it's very it's different.
It is-
It's
it is
I've never
different.
had more than one or two people to go the full length of
Disclosure? sort of?
disclosure
Yeah,
and
yeah.
topics that are outside of the norm of
Yeah.
other people, not us, but
Yeah.
So this is I'm a little shell shocked, but I'm enjoying myself. This is amazing, and everybody's beautiful. Everybody's so unique, and I'm just happy to be here.
So you've got an interesting story. You've got some kind of multi-dimensional gifts and skills, right? And you've done some channel work, and I've seen some of the conversations in the chat, and some people are getting a little bit of blowback in the chat room because it's like, well, that's the devil's work, or you're dealing in sorcery or whatever. So
Not at
tell people a little
all.
bit about your work and what that was about, and kind of maybe where you want to take it in the future.
Well, I'd like to start by saying that ever since I was really a baby, I've had extrasensory experiences.
She looks psychic, doesn't she? Like, couldn't you just see her cross the table from you, like reading your palm, right?
Well,
keep going.
that's not what I do.
I know, I know.
I know. But I always had extrasensory experiences, and I was very open to it until probably my early teen years. And Hollywood scary movies, horror movies get in your head. So I became very afraid and very turning away from all.
So what
of
kind of
that.
things would you experience when you were?
Oh, all kinds of visions. Well, the being that works the closest with me, which I'm just going to disclose who it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've channeled several entities, and I know this is the number that everyone panics when they hear. But for my work, for my first books that I've written,
Right.
I've channeled 33 different entities.
Yeah.
Okay. From the light, what we would consider the light.
Right.
Towards the end, the dark presented itself also. I was not warned, but I was informed that it would present itself so that I could understand that and pass on that knowledge. Because one thing I have to say, as much as we've been lied to about everything, we've been lied to about channeling as well.
Uh-huh.
I don't really like the word channeling because, again, it has all these preconceived notions and, do I lose consciousness, and it's all woo-woo, but we really all have the ability to tap into more.
Mhm.
We're running on very limited perception. On a good day, you know how they talk about the 10% consciousness or the 10% brain capacity, that we only see about 10%. Well, that ties into our third dimensional perspective, which, by the way, we have a pyramidal view. It's almost as if the Giza pyramid were on its side, with the cap missing, which is this part of our mind, which we don't perceive what goes on in our brain, right?
Mhm.
And we have that same perspective. So that is what allows us, or restricts us rather, into seeing three-dimensional.
Right.
Okay, I know I went way
No, that's
on
okay.
a
We
tangent.
can go there.
I'm
Go there.
tangent person, so bear with me. But As far as the info that I've tapped into is having to do with our human consciousness, how to expand outside of the limitations of what we currently perceive, and how to perceive more of what's around us and within us, because we're in it, but we understand so little. We're on a planet and we don't know how we got here.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe we've overextended our welcome and our visit when we don't remember our point of origin.
Interesting point of view.
And there's so many resources, and we could be here in experiencing the physical plane eternally if we weren't doing it so destructively. But the imbalance, the extremes, and the destruction, which I feel very deeply when it comes to nature and everything that's going on, not only with humanity, but with the planet.
Right. Yeah.
And there are very big changes coming, some in our lifetimes, very big ones past our lifetimes that I'm grateful we won't be here for that. At least if we all do our work and get off after this cycle.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as what I've been given really is it's almost like getting new bearings so we can see our place within the universe that we're a part of, having to do with how our consciousness manifests time and space.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And once we get an understanding of that, there's a new way of looking at our solar system that really shows past, present, and future.
Right.
And yeah, that's what I'm working on.
It's good
So
stuff. Now you're in a transition too, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I'm getting out of Dodge, leaving Miami and
Right.
selling my home. I just got my camper van. I'm super psyched.
Right. You're gonna retrofit that thing.
No, it's done.
It's done.
I got it from an elderly couple.
Oh, good.
56,000 miles, mint condition.
Nice.
And from Orlando, and I got a great price, which is important.
Right.
And as soon as I sell my house, I'm hitting the road.
You're gonna go look
Finish
for
my work and hopefully get published. You know?
beautiful. Yeah. Well, I hope this is a good launching point for you.
Thank you. And the creamies over there.
Yeah.
I was talking to them this morning.
You're trying to hit them up a little bit for a little publishing
Well,
thing, maybe?
he actually offered.
Oh. They offered. That's
let's see,
actually something.
We'll see.
They haven't offered me anything.
I'm gonna throw my manuscript at him.
There's a reason. I'm sure. I'm sure.
So we'll see.
That's
So,
a good story.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for having me. You're awesome. Bye, guys.
Okay, how we doing? We good? Anybody else want to come on up here? We don't have to all come up, but it'd be nice to have some more people. So who wants to take the hot seat? Oh, we got Jeff. Look at Jeff. He's straight up here confidently. That's a confident gait. What's going on, Jeffrey?
Well, I'm one of the lurkers, you know.
You got to come a little bit closer. You got to
Okay.
get in here. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So you're one of the lurkers?
Yeah, I don't really comment that much. I live in Seattle, so he comes on a little too early for me for most of the mornings, but I'm the type of person that's always listening and willing to give a hug and start up a conversation. So that's one of the reasons I'm here.
You're here for that. And you are a body worker, energy worker, right? Is some of what you do?
Well, I do have healing hands.
Healing
I
hands.
don't do it professionally.
Okay. So what sort of skills and gifts you want to manifest and get better at here in the 21st century?
Well, I'm kind of a Piscean, and I'm very good all-around artist. I lived in San Francisco for about 15 years, and I had an art teacher who taught me how to oil paint. You know, she was a master painter.
Right.
So I can reproduce, you know, anything I can see.
That's a gift.
And I learned that in about 2 years. So,
Right.
you know, I think I had some of that. So I learned, you know, from that as an artist, you know, you work with a set of tools.
Yeah.
And once you learn how the tools work, you can create almost anything. So that's, I just kind of consider myself an artist of all things.
Or small things.
And I grew up in Pennsylvania in a neighborhood probably about 15 miles from where Randy Moggins lives.
Oh, interesting.
And as a child, I was there till about 14, and I had a grandmother, and her best friend was a worker for the state. She would drive drive around rural Pennsylvania and see how people were spending their money, you know, that were on the dole.
Right.
And my grandmother and she were both artists, and we would set up little easels in barnyards and at the seashore and stuff like that. So I had a very deep appreciation of the earth. You know, I spent my youth swimming and fishing in the local creeks and all of that stuff. So I've always been an earth steward, and I like what Ani says, you know, we really have to be aware, stay grounded, and protect what we have and do everything we can that way. So I think some of my best work is still ahead of me. So one of the reasons I'm here is to just kind of interact with some of you folks and see how I can kind of craft my life. And, you know, I think my best is still ahead of me.
That's good. Isn't that great? Yeah. Where did you live in San Francisco? We didn't talk about that.
Well, I lived in on Fulton Street, which is in the Western Addition, right on the corner of Alamo Squares. It's about
I actually lived near there. I lived on Fell and is it Fell and Goff or
yeah. You're kind of over by the Haight.
Yeah.
So I was there from 74 to 89, which was a really good time to be there.
Yeah, I moved there in 91. So that was an interesting time to be around the Lower Haight. There was a lot happening musically and artistically and creatively. And that's all gone away now. And then you ironically, well, not ironically, but interestingly enough, we both moved to Seattle from San Francisco in the same year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was very in the beginning of grunge and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Did you bring any painting supplies?
I don't have any with me now.
Okay. All right. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming up, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate all these.
All right. Anybody else want to come up? I got to have Donna up here. Here we go. Donna, you're next. I want you, Donna, next. Okay. We're going to go Leo Aquarius here. Leo Aquarius. Can you make it around? So we're going to go Dawn to Donna. That works. Okay, we got Dawn Hart in the house. How you doing? How you doing, Dawn?
Good. How are you?
Welcome to the show. So Dawn is, you're here through Randy again. This is a big Randy Moggins connection and Emily, right? And you're also part of this group called the Unfuckers. Can you tell people what the Unfuckers is? It's a great name. Can you tell them what the Unfuckers is?
It's just a group of people all over the world that are interested in unfucking the world.
Right, because the world is fucked and they're unfucking it.
Yeah.
I thought about that last week. I'm like, what does that mean? Oh, I get it now. They're unfucking the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're also somebody who's a kind of an earth and animal advocate. That's a big thing for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with the nature thing. I'm a big foster of animals. So a big part of my life is pulling animals and moving them to different states or to get them different homes. But I think I was kind of born like that. But the other side of what I do is I make cannabis medicine for disease or autoimmune or just, you know, basically it seems like everybody's got something going on. And, you know, our cores, which is our endocannabinoid, is compromised. And so everybody's kind of expressing that differently depending on their makeup. So we're just kind of in that time period. I myself have a background in addiction. I was an addict for over 20 years. I had a spiritual awakening. I actually had what I call a timeline shift, where I went to bed one night with a $200 a day cocaine habit, and I woke up not an addict. But to get there, I endured about 9 months of the veil thinning, where I could see like all the beings around me. You know, it's kind of interesting. I think for any addict, you know, it's trauma-based, you know, and self-value is not there. So when you see all these other beings that are all of a sudden around you that have been there the whole time, you just didn't see them. And then you realize that, you know, what they want to do to you it kind of changes the aspect of your life really quick because you realize you don't really want to go with them or have anything to do with that. So I guess that is what it took for me to fight for myself.
Yeah.
But I endured about 9 months of supernatural activity.
You say endure, not experience, but endure. Like you had.
And they would come after me. Not only would I see these beings in my home, but I would go to get my drugs and they're all in the hood, you know, it's all happening all around everybody. It's just nobody can see it.
Okay.
And I got to see it. So
we're talking about these entities that.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
They're everywhere. So.
And when you're in a state of intoxication or dispossession of the spirit, that's when they attach.
Well, and you know, as my friend Jeff loves to say, you know, when you enter another's game, you're subject to the rules of that game. So just like with drugs, it would be with pharmaceuticals. They take you into frequency areas that certain beings run. So if you don't know that, you are destined to be in another's game.
Mm-hmm.
So I became I went from a crackhead to an alchemist, like overnight. But in that transition, I learned how to form my own game, and I knew what that meant. And I learned how to get in touch with my own spirit in a very powerful way. And so I think it is about owning your space. That way, by doing that, then you affect the world. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, so I think that's how they get away with everything, is that we don't own our spaces, or we give our power away to things we don't realize we're doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We abdicate.
Yeah.
And people abdicate often because we've been entrained with trauma. And this is what happens. We just kind of reflexively do things and we don't even understand why. We look back and say, why did I make this choice, or why did I make this decision? Because we abdicated our ability to do something different. And in a lot of ways, we have to take ourselves off the hook because of what's happened to many of us. We're acting out of deep pain or deep fear in ways that we can't even understand or comprehend. But if we can spend more time with that and begin to understand that, then we can unhook those things through the help of, you know, spiritual intervention and divine guidance and the help of others.
I like to say, you know, I think we all kind of view things in our own way about this place. My whole thing is I feel that we're here to purge shadows. So this is a purgatory of sorts. Mm-hmm. And so as we purge these shadows, then as a being we grow, right? So for me, it's been an upward, you know, movement. I think Dante has it right. I feel we live in purgatory. I think our job is to purge shadows. Mm-hmm. And that's why everybody's doing it right now. And the time is compressing and we're just in it, y'all. Mm-hmm. So if that, you know, I have a book here that I'll bring out. It's a 1812 edition of Dante's Inferno. I brought it because actually my friend Jeff, we were talking about it, but I think it is when we all kind of look at all the levels we have to go through, that would be shadow purging, would it not? And once you reach that, then you go to the next. And I think that's where we're going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then so that we all don't feel crazy, we have to be around each other.
So Steve Cribby brought me William Blake's interpretation of Dante's Inferno. Gave that to me as a gift yesterday.
Yeah. So I have the 1812.
Huh? It's timely.
Yeah. I just think it's part of, and I think once you purge those shadows, you know, because in your space, you know, like when you're carrying a shadow, it feels heavy and then we feel depressed. Yeah. So as we purge those things out, then we lighten the load.
Yeah. So. Well, thank you for bringing your light.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you. Don Hart. All right, Donna, come up here. Where do you meet Donna?
Oh gosh.
Can we put the Elizabeth Taylor filter on the camera?
Yeah, exactly. So Donna is the Antichrist. I just want to let you know.
No, not
Do you
yet.
think that the Antichrist would come to you in a turban, a blue turban? Somebody, Jared Kushner? No, here we go. It's right here.
No.
It's a running joke, by the way. It's a,
Yes.
tell them why it's a running joke.
I'm part of, shout out to the Aqua Stels of 1962. Hey group, we meet, have a Facebook group. And so there's a group of us who have an Aquarius stellium from 62. And according to Gene Dixon, the Antichrist is supposed to come out of our group. And so I had a reading with Robert, and he said something about the Antichrist is coming out of your group or something. I said, I don't think that's me. I'm not the Antichrist. But
if you were like totally evil, right? Wouldn't this be like the Antichrist? Like, who would believe that she could be the Antichrist, right?
Maybe they might say.
No, seriously, I'm just messing around. But I mean, it's a kind of an interesting concept. So let's talk about how you got here and tell us a little about you besides your Antichrist future.
I found you on Regina, who I love.
Yeah.
I love you, Regina. You are a gift. Thank you for everything you do. And so I thought you were interesting because you have not crazy, but interesting perceptions of events and life and all this other stuff. And I like that because you're unusual and you say what you think, and it may not be what everybody else thinks, and it could be a little out there, but it's totally cool. And I love that you're willing to share it regardless of what anybody thinks about you. You're not trying to win a popularity contest.
That's obvious.
Yeah. He's so entertaining though. My goodness. Sometimes when you get off on these TED, it's like, oh, there goes Robert. It's almost like Alex Jones, when you watch him, sometimes I have him on the background and his InfoWars show, and he gets off on something and I'm like, oh my gosh, here goes out. And he is crazy.
He's an Aquarian.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, we're brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And so yes, you're very fascinating, very interesting, and you're a truth teller, and I love that. And so
what about you? Let's hear a little bit about you. Like what are you into besides your Aquarian club and some of your fancies and interests?
Well, I love to travel. I'm planning on going to the 7 chakra centers of the planet.
Oh, okay.
So I've been to Shasta, that's the route I think, and 2 in England. Last year I went on a King Arthur tour of England type thing with Patricia Corey.
Oh, you went with Pat Corey?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I love her.
Yep, she's cool, right?
Yeah, she's really cool. And
she go to Glastonbury?
yes, and Tintagel, and we went into Merlin's cave, and it was
so
totally
you're
awesome.
doing all 7 of these
chakra centers, and I don't know why, and I think part of it is because I'm supposed to bring my energy to these places, and they're supposed to infiltrate me as well. So
yeah,
I
think I read something about those 7 points as being the activation points for the Antichrist. Like, that the Antichrist would go to these 7 places and then would awaken to the power of the Antichrist.
Well, wow, that's the theory. Hey, and I still have Australia left, so I want to shout out to Justice Moody, right? He's our Australian.
Yeah, right.
So you're not here, but you're here. So
okay, we got some peeps in Australia.
Oh yeah, everybody in Australia, I'll be heading your way shortly.
New Zealanders, what is chat? Oh, Alexander Kirk says hello from Glastonbury.
Oh, awesome! I went to the Glastonbury Symposium. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And I laid in a crop circle. That was totally awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was powerful. I mean, it was an experience. You could feel things. There was whirling energy.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. That's where Pat Corey, didn't she go into a crop circle too?
Yes, I was with her group.
Right.
But she leads groups to all those different things too. And I've been to Egypt, and Egypt is really totally cool. You know what? The interesting thing about Egypt is that the people are not what you would think. I mean, I had this notion of these Middle Eastern men and Muslim men as these, jihadist types and stuff like that. But some of them are the most heartfelt males on the planet.
Yeah.
And I met so many of them, and it touched my heart. Somebody offered 5,000 camels to marry me.
Are you serious? 5,000?
5,000 camels.
How could you not take that deal? Wow.
No, and I don't know what that equates to.
Quit your day job with 5,000 camels.
I know. And I recommend a camel ride.
Okay.
Let me just say, there's some serious gyration in those humps. And so,
Okay.
Lord have mercy.
All right.
Yeah. So
Sagittarius rising's coming out now.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes. So yeah, camel ride Egypt. And so, yeah, and I've been to Machu Picchu in Peru and Lake Titicaca and all that stuff. And we did some ceremony with the Himalayas and the Lake Titicaca thing on December 21st, 2012. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really totally cool. So I still have Australia and Tibet left. And I know Patricia had made some comments about she wasn't taking any groups to Tibet anymore because it's been compromised. But isn't a place when it's compromising, isn't that when they need the light to come in more?
Well,
Bring the light.
one would think
I'm bringing
so.
my light
One would
before
think
it
so.
turns dark.
Right. Before you get to that 7th spot.
That's when Pluto hits all my major planets, my stellium and Aquarius. It's going to be coming soon. What, 10 years?
It's pretty soon.
10, 15 years or something?
Don, I think you need your own show. That's what I think.
Oh, right. I can do movie reviews.
There you go. Okay.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Especially after maybe partaking in some natural sacred earth medicine,
Yeah.
which, speaking of, I had a sacred mushroom teacher.
Yeah.
I was telling Chris about it this morning.
Uh-huh.
So from that experience, you know, I've always wanted to have a near-death experience. So I haven't had one. Only because after somebody has a near-death experience, more than likely something's been opened up in them and psychic gifts have been turned on. And I always wanted to be psychic and have magical gifts and things like that. So, but I don't right now yet,
Right. Yeah.
but it's coming.
You're coming, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had my sacred mushroom teacher because one of my sons said, Mom, if you want to be enlightened, you need to try shrooms. Don't tell Paul Stamets I said shrooms because he doesn't like that term. They're sacred mushroom teachers, plants. And they
Okay.
could be from outer space. I'm not sure. But in that experience, I did a whole, you know, it wasn't just for recreation. I did a ceremony that I created on my own. And it changed me like a near-death experience. And so now I don't necessarily need a near-death experience because I had my esoteric, we are all one experience. So I had a vision of all of us, people all around the world they would morph into me. Everybody from extreme athletes to, you know, somebody on death row.
Mhm.
It was everybody's me and I'm everyone. And I cried for 3 days. And I would be driving down the road and I was thinking, wow, you know, some person pulled in front of me. I was like, God, that person's an asshole. And it's like, that asshole is me. I'm an asshole. But I'm also an extreme athlete who skis on mountains. And so the competition, you know, sometimes women can be really competitive with each other for a male or for whatever. The competition, all of that fell away because if everybody's me and I'm everyone and I'm learning to love myself, then I freaking love everyone because y'all are me. And so when I came into this room and I saw you guys and I was late, I was like, oh, look at all these parts of me I haven't met yet, but I'm so looking forward to meeting. And so anyway, I love you guys and I'm so glad we're all here together and I really am looking forward to meeting you all. And so as far as what I would like to tell you before I leave is that, you know, there is dark stuff.
Yeah.
Our shadow side, like Dawn was saying, she called it purging, but I want to say that I think we need to embrace it. Because we can't be all love and light. We're all of it. The spectrum from darkness, the whole light spectrum, we're all of that. And, you know, all these politicians and the crap they're pulling in Washington and everywhere else, corruption and all of that stuff is there. But that's a shadow side we need to see. And we need to say, hey, that's a part of me. Because when you disown your shadow, you know, that's when you get compromised. And that's when people can come in and take you over. And not just people, things, technology can take you over and all of that stuff. So anyway, I'm just saying, just, you know, be of heart, be strong of heart and just know that you're going to make it through this and it's going to be good on the other side. So fear and darkness might come and hell might break loose and the whole world might go to hell in a handbasket. Just know that it's all going to be good on the other side. And it's because it's an individual experience. You know, the mass political mainstream media, fake news, all of that thing, that's an agenda. That's something that's out there. But we each have individual lives, and what's happening in our lives is more important than everything. And that is what changes the world. So when hell is breaking loose, you just stay centered and say, I'm still going to be me. I love me, and I love you because you're me. And so hang in there, folks. It's going to be good. It's going to be a ride, but it's going to be good in the long run. So
Isn't that great?
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh.
Right. Not every day you get a hug from the Antichrist. Yeah, exactly. So, here we go. Marion. We're on a roll now.
I loved it. I love what you just said.
Isn't that great?
It is wonderful. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Marion. Here we are.
I like you, Robert.
We're kind of time twinning in some ways.
Not that.
So Scorpio rising, same degree.
Same degree. I
Same
know.
degree.
I looked it up.
Yeah,
So me and
28.
Robert got the story.
And she's kind of the opposite Aries, sort of Libra thing. So here we are connecting in Kerrville. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
And you're in Texas. And you're originally from a very small farm that's out breakfast this morning, small village in Germany.
Small village, population 800.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, between Cologne and Frankfurt, somewhere in the boonies. Country girl. 2 farmers.
2 farmers.
Yeah, one on the north end of the town, and one Main Street.
And that's it.
But they had a hotel with a bowling alley, and I, when I was 15, was discovered there as the next Ella Fitzgerald. A drummer of that band. He was a jazz drummer.
Yeah.
The band that was playing at the hotel for the people who booked these bowling tours from other cities.
The bowling tour scene.
Bowling tours. You know, they come for a whole weekend, they bowl and get drunk,
Yeah.
do stuff. And I was standing there 15 years old at the bar ordering something, a beer. Because, you know, it's not restricted. You can order a beer. I was 15. I looked 17, 18. And he was in a black leather jacket. His name was Walter. He's not with us anymore. And he was just leaned over, nursing a whiskey. And I was singing along with the jukebox, humming to myself. But I like to sing. And he turned around and looked at me and he said, "What we got here?" Another Ella. And I didn't know. "Who's Ella?" He was peeved. He said, "You don't know Ella?" I said, "No, do tell." And so he invited me to join the band, and I became the singer, and blah, blah. And that was how I got started.
So did you tour with them? Did you go on the bowling tour with them?
No, the bowling teams from other cities in Germany would come to this weekend retreat.
Oh, I see.
To do a lot of bowling, a lot of drinking, and some dancing.
Right. So now, did you tour with the band though after that?
No, the band was stationary. Didn't tour.
Okay, so you would sing.
But I had other
them.
bands, and somebody discovered me, and I had a manager, and everybody wanted money. And I said, and then they told me I was hard to sell as a singer. Great voice, but you're hard to sell. I said, "Why?" "Because you do not," that was in 77. "You do not, you know, I was a stout girl, 5'10", stout, you know.
Right.
I just didn't fit that Donna Summer image.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they said I'm hard to sell, and they constantly wanted me to pay for every stamp that they used. And I said, well, if this is what stardom is about, I don't need it. And I cut it short and left it right there because I said, I'm not paying to sing to others. They need to pay me.
There we go.
So they got this all backwards,
Oh.
and I'm not doing it.
You've got the banner collapsing.
Somebody's in agreement.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And then I married a Texan when I was 22, and this is how I wound up here. I've been living in near Austin for the last 20 years. And spiritual awakening I've had also. I've been searching all my life. I grew up without religious teaching because nobody practiced in my home. They were busy raising 6 to 8
Without
children.
religious teaching, so nothing going on there.
Nothing going on.
Okay.
Nothing. So in a way that was good because it left me a blank slate and I could explore when I was older as I wished. And I did. I've been reading and studying. And that happened around age 28, 29.
Right, Saturn
pivotal
return.
time.
Right
Yeah.
around Saturn return.
And that's when I got serious about that. and been studying all sorts of things that interest me ever since.
You have a tremendous accent. It's a combination of Texas and German. Can you hear that in her voice? It is very unique.
See, I wish I could hear what you hear.
Yeah, well, can you guys hear that? It's like, yeah, it's very unique.
I used to do radio. I forgot that. I used to do radio, so the voice has been a thing.
Yeah.
Singing, and then I said, bag that. I got to pay for it. I'm not doing it. They're telling me I'm hard to sell. No, really, I was, yeah.
You were just 40 years ahead of Adele. That's all, right?
I was,
mean,
right.
Yeah.
And so then I did radio, and I learned radio in El Paso while my husband and I lived there. And I learned it there at a jazz station, and I love jazz. I love all kinds of music, but jazz does something to me.
Live jazz is some of the best music.
And
in the world.
they like my voice in that genre.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then went back to Germany and had a show there for 4 years. And so radio has been part of my life, but I haven't done any in about 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the voice is a thing. And I think I'm supposed to use it
great voice
for the collective.
For
and
the
for,
collective.
you know, my own path.
Right.
And I've worked in many different occupations. I've found out that I usually don't stay in any given occupation no longer than 5 years. After that, I know what I'm doing. I'm good at it. I'm done. Let's do something else.
Right.
So I do that constantly. So I've worked in sales. I've worked in office management. I've worked in export sales. I've worked in factories. I've been through an apprenticeship as a German train conductor for 3 years, and then immediately left thereafter because I didn't want to be a train conductor. Aries, you know. I don't want, I don't do.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So I've always wanted to ask this of somebody in Germany. What was it like kind of growing up in the aftermath of World War II? And
yeah,
what were some of the attitudes and emotions like?
I'm glad you asked it.
Yeah.
Because when I was 16, we took our class for a class trip, the first one outside of the country, to Canterbury, England, the great cathedral, for a week with a guest family, here two students at a time, and then 3 days London. And in London, we were taken to a discotheque. This was 1976. Disco was happening, stylistics, and all that good stuff. First time I heard stylistics, I said, oh, I like that.
Betcha by golly, wow.
Oh, their voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all into voice. And took us to the disco. A young English guy sat down. We were kind of shyly standing around, giggling amongst ourselves. And I wanted to dance. I said, I'm not sitting here waiting for some guy to pick me for a dance, because they usually don't, you know. So I said, I'll go out there and dance by myself. I came back to the table. Young English guy sat across from me. I said, well, okay. And the first thing he asked me is, after he asked me where I'm from, I said, Germany. And the second thing he asked me, and this guy was about 19 years old, do you like Hitler? And I was kind of prepared for that, because I do believe that we inherit, of course, the story of our ancestors. We inherit that. Yeah, you can sit there and argue and say, well, I wasn't there. I didn't kill any people. But you inherit that, and you got to walk with it. And we were not taught much in school about it, not much at all. And we ourselves, I don't recall ever any of my peers in school discussing that we would like to be taught more. So we didn't have the desire to explore it. We knew of it. It sounded horrible. We couldn't imagine it at that age, but we were not prepared to deal with any questions or being identified as the offspring of said generations. So I think that was highly inadequate of the German school system at the time. It should have prepared us better and more openly, since it already took place. I know there are deniers out there, and I'm not dealing with that. I'm pretty sure it took place. And it made me lack any kind of patriotism. I said, what's there to be proud of? So to finish a little story with the guy, he looked at me, and I was happy. A nice, decent fellow sat down and was interested in conversation. And as soon as he asked me that, my face fell down and I looked at him and I said, what's there to like? And I got up and left because I felt highly insulted. But that's the one thing that happened to me directly, where I had to deal with that. And for him to ask that in a discotheque of all places, such a young guy, was pivotal for me. And I thought about it many times. Yeah, what it did with me is this German history throughout that whole century. It gave me great compassion, foremost for all people who had to suffer under them. I also know that it was mind control on many levels. I also know that I don't know what I would have done had I been in my ancestors' shoes. At first I thought, yeah, I would have never played that game. Well, I don't think there was much choice. I've asked my grandparents about it shortly before they left. They were very poor people. My grandfather was in the German Luftwaffe for about 3 months and he got captured and was taken to a prison camp for 10 years. The war ended in 45. He didn't return to his home till 49. He was one of the last ones to come home.
Where was that? Russia? Russia?
He was not in Russia. He was in what today is Croatia.
Croatia.
Yeah. And my grandmother therefore had to raise the 3 children on her own with hardly any food. My mother said she used to beat us if we stuck one finger in the sugar pot. My mother was traumatized due to all of that. My grandmother was traumatized due to all that.
Right.
And my grandmother was born in 1910, so therefore she was a young child, First World War, like 14 to 18. And so now, at my age now, I'm in my 60th year, it makes me really have a lot of compassion, and I understand the older generations, my grandparents and my mother, in their harshness, in their rough ways of raising us, beatings. I come from a very volatile home, broken bones, blue eyes, whatever, everything went. I was raised by a Capricorn. Just saying. Don't take it on. Don't walk with it. But I was raised by a Capricorn female with high standards. And she needed lots of help. And she was traumatized through the wars.
That's right.
And now I can feel for them. The compassion that I wish I would have had in my 20s and 30s, but that wasn't right yet. So what it makes me do, German, yeah, I don't believe in nationalism. I'm always in my head in the future. I'm really a utopist. And I'm constantly dreaming up due to my heavy Pisces presence, maybe, in my birth horoscope. I'm constantly dreaming up my universe. I mean, you can come there if you like. And I have a high love for humanity. And even the ones that are doing all these things.
That's interesting, and that's not easy to do, right?
No, but I've opened up and I understand we are all timeless beings. The good, the bad, and the ugly, we are all timeless. Everybody's on a different spot on the wheel. Everyone will eventually get where they need to be. I understand the universal law of movement, that even truth does not stand still, is not. You can't, a lot of people use that word all the time. I'm looking for the truth. Once I have it, I'm going to hold on to it. Everything is movement. You're riding a wave. And that applies to the truth as well. As soon as the truth is written, printed, and assimilated, it has changed. And I want people to get that into their selves and into their beings. And I think, and also the timelessness, I think that's what I want to spread, or at least invoke some optimism for.
Right.
I want to spread the all timeless beings. And that death is not really a valid word. We just keep moving in and out of different spaces and configurations. We take on many identities, and I know this. Don't ask me to prove it. I know this. I just know it.
Right.
I didn't always know that, but I know it. And once you have it in yourselves, look at all this ruckus that's going on. We're in the age of transparency. Everything's coming up for inspection.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of ugly stuff's coming up. And I also think that politics, to some degree, reflect what is still present in all of us, because we mirror each other.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you get highly incensed and highly emotional and triggered and all that jazz, take a few deep breaths and say, where am I still greedy?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in the dimension that they play with, you know? Where am I still maybe sexually deviant? Where I know something's not right. I need to maybe, you know, just name all the ugly stuff. Just look, where does it reverberate in you?
That gets back to the shadow stuff that
Yeah.
Donna was talking about,
Yeah.
and even reflecting on sort of the timeless nature and this idea that we're all reflections or manifestations of the one.
Yeah.
So it's a
And
nice
we
segue.
move. We always move.
Yeah.
And we're constant movement, and we gather in experience along the way, and we gift it back to the universes, the multiverse, whatever is there. We'll know it all one day. And time is a construct. Weave in and out of it, use it like a tool. Don't get caught. And that's what I've gathered so far. That's how I've come to be here. And I really appreciate you. That's why I liked you. And I said, I got to go and meet him. I got to look at him. Yeah, I do. I've been, following his work for years, but I knew I had to come because and like all of you, I wanted to look at you. Because looking at you and taking you in, just drinking you in like that, it gives me a lot. It lets me know a lot about you. And I need connection. I've been kind of hibernating for many years. So I'm ready to step back out and drink it in and, let it flow.
All right. Isn't that great? Awesome. Okay. Wow. Marion, bringing it. So this is just giving you guys out there watching an insight into who's here, right? This is a small sample size. We're probably not going to get to everybody in the room, and I'm not sure everybody in the room wants to be up here, and that's okay. But I think you're getting an idea as to, what this is about and who's shown up. And if so far, if everybody's a reflection of me that's come up here, right? If you're all me, I'm pretty psyched. This is all of you have been pretty amazing. Not pretty amazing, very amazing. What was I thinking about? Oh, right. Okay. So something that Marion just brought up about reflection and things that are coming up for people. And I think probably one of the kind of the great mind fucks that's happened in the last week was Ellen DeGeneres showing up in the booth with Jerry Jones's booth at the Cowboy game with George W. Bush. Yeah, so everybody in this room, I think, would have an interpretation of that in a very different kind of way than maybe the mainstream media would. Okay, it's always interesting to get their kind of breakdown. But what it did is it really melted a lot of people's brains on the left that Ellen could be in the booth with George W. Bush, right? Right. Well, the thing is, and I'll tell you what though, and I listen to conservative talk radio just to kind of figure out what's going on, and they used to call it talk radio because people would call in and talk. That doesn't happen anymore, by the way. If you listen to AM radio now, they talk, and every now and then you get to dial in. They're really, kind of contorting their, I wouldn't say cordoning off their message. And anyway, so they had a very interesting sort of section on this, and that the liberals, like who was talking, what's her name? Susan Sarandon. And she basically said, why is she in the room with a war criminal? And you know what? She's right, actually. And the guys who were on conservative talk radio, they could only wrap their heads around the fact that Ellen was presenting a different kind of relationship that the left couldn't handle because they're so locked in on who you should hang out with or who you should listen to or what food you should eat and so on and so on. And so what happened is that as a result of that, they couldn't enter into that discussion, nor would they enter into that discussion because that's not where their heads would go. But the fact of the matter is that both the left and the right were melting over this Ellen in the George W. Bush thing in the booth. And by the way, he looked like an infantile child. Did you guys see that? I mean, it was really, well, it was really bizarre and sad to see. Maybe not sad, I'm sorry. I mean, whoever that guy is now, I'm not even sure that's him anymore, to be honest, to be frank. But it was pathetic. It was pathetic to watch him. And it was almost like she was getting some weird satisfaction out of it too in some strange way. I don't want to project too much, but that's what it felt like. But you're right, Marion. We have to kind of wrap our heads around this idea of truth. And I do believe that there are eternal truths that we do have to kind of wrap our hearts around. But in terms of like the truths that we live in with society, I think that you brought up a really, really good point. And I think it was last Sunday night, and Janelle, who was supposed to be here, God bless her, I love Janelle. I was talking about Ray Kroc and McDonald's. And she said, well, we'd be much better off if we didn't have McDonald's. And I would say maybe yes now, but if you look back at McDonald's and the role that it played, during the development of the country, it created a lot of jobs. It created a lot of opportunities. Kids went to work at McDonald's after school, which is very, very different. Distribution chains, management. And it was, again, part of our story. And it may be changing and morphing now. Maybe we don't really need McDonald's now. But then one could make a case that we actually needed something like that on some level, right? And it was almost inevitable that would happen because of the way that our culture was going. So I worked at McDonald's. It didn't make my life any better. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, McDonald's changed my life. It didn't, as a matter of fact. But that's kind of what I'm getting at. Sometimes we see something, we say, well, this is awful. And then we break it down and we say, you know what? Well, maybe it existed for a reason, and it helps certain people along the way at a certain point. And maybe that thing has outlived its timestamp. And then, then we can do something different. But it's an interesting thing to think about. And sometimes when we go, this is bad or this is wrong, then maybe we pull back a little bit and say, okay, well, what's the deeper story here? And how can we interpret this? And do we want to discard it now? Or, so thank you for bringing that up and bringing it to our attention. I think we're getting pretty close to winding down. We're coming up in about an hour and a half, roughly. Does anybody else want to come up and sit up here and chat with the world? Anybody else want to share their story? I think I got the biggest personalities here. Steve Cremmy, come on up. Come on up here, Steve. So, we've just been staring at each other through the screens. And my first impression of Steve was he's built like a linebacker. Yeah.
I invented the position of power guard in basketball.
Power guard. So you would just like clear people out. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey.
Good to be here, man.
Yeah. I don't have much to say, but I would actually like to tell my Mount Tam story.
Go for it.
Yeah. Because I think people have heard me yap, make that general idea. And besides the fact that I'm just like so honored meeting everybody, and this has only expanded my unbelievable, just impression of how wonderful this group is, and the fact that now that we have all been in the same space, it's a whole other level of friendship and reality to the whole escapade, and so now this is something that is real,
right? Yeah,
and it's real, and it's it's in my heart. I'll assume it's in everyone else's heart. So I'm really I'm just unbelievably impressed and humbled, the fact that just meeting everybody here so far, and I was just telling Robert before, if it went home today, I'd be just like thrilled, So I just have a little story, if you indulge me, from 1978. I guess I was thinking of two things. One, in 1978, I took a cross-country trip during spring break in college, and we kind of pushed it to a couple of weeks because that's kind of quick. And I drove through the Texas Panhandle. This is the only time I've been in Texas before, so it's been 40 years since then. And during that time, so we drove out to the Bay Area, to San Francisco. It was also my only time in San Francisco, and I've been a number of people from the Bay Area. And it's kind of in honor of also what's been going on there with the lights going out there. And I think there's something really significant, and I'm happy about that.
It feels sinister, right? This has got a sinister vibe to it. Yeah.
So I know a number of people have come through that, and then their lights have been shut off. So I'm just honoring that. But in 78, took a very quick trip, drive across country. First stop was St. Louis, second stop was Boulder, and third stop was San Francisco, and opened me up in a few ways. I'd never seen a health food store before, so they had like avocado and cheese sandwiches, which was like totally blew my mind. Never, it never even my imagination that you wouldn't have, bologna on something. So. So we drove out there, and then I drove with a person who eventually was the best man at our wedding, friend Peter, and he had friends who had moved out there, and it was in the Mission District.
Yeah.
So it was also my first time eating a burrito.
Oh man!
As I recall, and so we went to some place, and we didn't speak Spanish, and they didn't speak English. And so, we were very, in our bravado, there was like this back wall of sauces, and they kept on pointing to them. And so, sure, no, more, and yeah, so that was an interesting evening with that. Anyway, so it was kind of like I don't recommend you do this at home, but it was kind of a fear and loathing trip. We had a lot of speed, hash, and a cooler full of beer in the back of the car. So we drove cross country. This was in my 1969 Buick, and it's like sort of seats 11 comfortably, great car. And so one morning we get up and we decide, and with his friends, and we decide to have coffee and then sugar cubes with acid on it for breakfast. And to take a ride up to Mount Tam.
A little bit different than our power coffee.
So yeah, a little different. Things have changed. It's nice. So we decide to drive up to Mount Tam, which is this gorgeous Mount. I can't even Mount
Tamalpais.
Yeah. So so I know nothing, and I'm the driver, even on LSD. So
it's a video game then.
It is. and the first bizarre occurrence is we're driving up, we get across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I guess we went up Highway 1, and there was a woman who was dressed like she was ready for some fashion models shoot, hitchhiking. And everyone in the car yelled, stop, the car was filled up with people. I don't know where she would have gotten in. She was very smart to completely ignore us, and we went on our way. So anyway, we get to Mount Tam, and we park, and we're walking around, and the whole place is completely enclosed in fog.
Yeah.
So there we are, tripping, walking around, and I'm seeing all sorts of things. And as it turned out, I shot, had my Minolta camera, and I shot 3 rolls of film of fog. And I have no idea what I thought I was taking pictures of.
It was deep, man, right? It was deep.
It was just, and I remember getting home and my father's like looking at the pictures developed. Just one roll after another of this fog. So I don't know what was there, and I couldn't recreate. So anyway, so we're driving around, and so we're walking around, and just staying close enough so that we could see each other. And at one point, this like Boy Scout troop, like right out of a Fellini movie, comes like walking right in front of us with the flags.
Why does it always happen on acid? Why does that stuff always happen like that?
So we're all just like completely flipped out of it, just like, I don't know. Anyway, so it was like very Fellini-esque. we move on. And then eventually we're just like tired of walking around and seeing absolutely whatever we were seeing, but nothing real. And so we just sit down on this hillside. The fog parts and there's San Francisco Bay, like glistening.
Right.
It was absolutely gorgeous.
Right. Yeah.
So end of the day comes around and, you know, pretty well down off of
Right.
the excitement, and driving back and what? Oh,
Come on. It's okay. Keep going.
Anyway, the as Highway 1, at least at that time, as I remember it, it was like, you know, no guardrail cliff.
Yeah, it's kind of hairy.
Michael Hedges famously went over that.
Over the edge.
Yeah, that's how he passed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of scary, and it was kind of taking pretty much all my skill to maintain the, you know, the Buick Steve oneness, you know, going down the road. And so at some point we're entering into a U-turn. What do you call it? Hairpin turn, right? So we're on the outside, cliffside, coming down, and then this bus comes, and there's not enough room for the bus to make a full turn, stay in the lane, so it actually cuts across the hairpin, and there is not enough room for my car and the road.
Right.
And both myself and my friend Peter, was in the back seat, were absolutely positive that the right rear wheel went over the edge. And both of us felt
Lifted up.
hand come up and hold the car as it went across.
Interesting.
And like smooth, like nothing happened. But we both know, because my awareness was such that I knew exactly where my car was and wasn't.
Right.
And it went off the road, but something held it up. So I'm still not sure who wasn't supposed to die that day. But
Right.
thankfully no one did, and nothing happened. And we spent the rest of the mostly uneventful day wandering around the streets of San Francisco.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my little uplifting Mount Tam story.
That's a great Mount Tam story, man.
And not long, so that year, not long after I got back from that and was in school, Union College in Schenectady, I had a dream one night. And in that dream, there was my tombstone. And on the tombstone was the date May 1st, 1985. And,
Oh, wow.
and the date, and May 1st, 1985 was the day that Chris and I went on our first date, which was a month in Turkey backpacking.
Yeah.
So something died, and I lived long enough anyway to get to my next life.
Right. Right.
After that. So I just figured I'd throw a little thing out there for everybody.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
See, Timmy. Cool. Any other LSD stories? I'll share an LSD story. Even though it's probably not in my best interest to share, I'll share it anyway. So in California, Berkeley Jazz Festival, we're in that state, right? And it's a beautiful day at the Greek Theater. And I think Chick Corea was playing, and Gail Moran singing, fantastic. I think Gary Burton on vibes. And so my girlfriend and I at the time were in the very similar state that Steve was in. And so we decided that we wanted to get out of the fray of the audience. And at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, I haven't been there in a long time, but you go up to the top and there were trees up there in kind of a grass area. And then it was a bowl with kind of like, you know, graduated cement seats. So we get up there to get away from the crowd and just take in the music and kind of melt. And all of a sudden, these two women come to where we are. There's nobody else around us. These two women come to where we are by this tree that we're laying under. And they start dancing around this tree. And one of the women has a beard, like a full-on beard. And it's like, this is the moment, right? This is the Boy Scout moment. And it's like, why is this happening? Why is the bearded woman with the earrings dancing around me while we're, tripping our brains out. And I just remember, like, is this really happening? Does she really have a beard? I mean, it was like kind of a, remember Bluto from Popeye? It was a Bluto kind of beard, right? And yeah, and apparently this is like, there was like a fetish market for women with these beards too. Like they're very high on the kind of this fetish list that, you can actually make money if they're into that sort of thing. Anyway, so yeah, absolutely. The bearded lady, right? This was the bearded lady. So, we're looking at each other. Is this really happening? And so then they're dancing around and say, oh, isn't this so cool? Yeah, it's really cool, man. This is what they're saying. So eventually they dance off. And I go back to my buddies, and I said, you wouldn't believe what happened to me, man. We went to the jazz festival, we tripped out. And there was this bearded woman. She was dancing around us. And they're like, yeah, right, bearded woman. Yeah, right. You were just high, dude. So about 8 months later, I was with most of those guys who were at a party in San Francisco. And who shows up? The bearded lady, right, at this party. And she walked in like she owned the place. It was fascinating. The idea that this woman would have a beard and not be self-conscious, right, and not want to shave it or have it, electrolyzed or whatever, electrolysis, and just own the beard. So there you go. There's a kind of the Boy Scout moment for me with that. I think we're winding down here. I think the natives are restless. Let me just check in with the chat room. Nice guys. I would have just wrote my number next to the pile of clothes. What else we have? Bonnie. Bonnie's here. Bonnie Willow. Great that your first date was a month in Turkey. Sticky marks. Duck off. Okay, I can do that. Be a pain. And Mrs. Pazu's arse multitasking. I think if they could come up with a program that could decode Sticky's texts, you could sell it to a foreign government. We love her, though. We love Sticky. I know. Yes, I know. We love her, and yeah, absolutely. Miranda says this has been awesome. Okay. Let's see, Stephen. Steven says acid flashbacks. No, Jasper is not present today because he's banging a string. What is it? Banging and siring kittens from the Truth Factory cat. He's probably neutered and she's not a real cat, but it's the thought that counts. I like that, Steven. That's great. What's that? Lori. Okay. 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 Sherry, we said hi to. Lori, Eileen, Diane. Everybody says hi. We say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. Okay. Hey, give yourselves a round of applause. Let's go. What's that? Oh, I don't know. I think you guys have all been stars. Why do we need a chart of the moment? We have all these stars in this room today, right? You are the chart of the moment. Okay? Thank you all. You know the story. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay up on what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You're listening to the Friday FARcast. And thank you for being a part of this. I don't think we'll be meeting on Sunday because we'll be eating on Sunday, right? Okay. Well, I'll be back on probably Tuesday, 15 Minutes of Flame. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody here in Kerrville. And we're out. Bye for now.